Okay, 3, 2, 1, here we go.
All right.
And then I normally wait just until, well, we got our first person on already, so
okay,
wait until a couple people come on. And I'll start with the spiel here, and then we'll introduce you and go.
It's kind of like on a radio show.
Yeah. I thought about doing this on a regular basis.
You'd be good.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so let's get moving. So thanks everybody for joining us on this episode of Your Future Mayor. I'm Steve Shriver. Today I'm a community journalist, entrepreneur, and as you probably know, one of Cedar Rapids' biggest fans, biggest cheerleaders. I chose to do this series to satisfy my own curiosity and also for our community to share these experiences and people who you may have not heard of. So far, we've interviewed 3 potential mayors, 3 candidates, and had over 2,000 views on those videos. So my goal is to really just spread the knowledge about each one of these candidates so that we go to vote better informed. So there are 8 people running for mayor, and we have about a month, 40 days to decide here. So we've got Gary Hensman, Chris Julich, Scott Olson, Tim Pridgeon, Jarrell Robinson, Lemmy Tuluhan, Brad Hart, and Monica Vernon. And before we get started, I wanted to thank Russ Fagel for this great artwork. Hear from Your Future Mayor. That's our TV show logo. And also, if you can right now share this, that'd be great. Or promote the fact that we're doing this live interview. If not, promote it after the fact so that people can get to know Monica Vernon a little bit better. Monica, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Really
this is
appreciate
going to be fun.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So let's get into some questions here. Now, I don't know if you've seen the other shows yet or the other candidates, but we got a pretty tough question to start out with. What do you order on your pizza?
Oh my goodness. Family arguments about
Right.
Let's see. Well, I was raised on hamburger. So a lot of people don't like this, but I love hamburger and green olive. Now, that's my, just down and dirty.
That's interesting. Okay.
But if I go to a place that's a little more creative, the old Mercado, I don't know if anyone remembers that. It was a place downtown, I think run by Mrs. Connolly. She introduced me to artichoke hearts, feta cheese, and arugula. Okay. And my world rocked.
Okay.
So those are my 2 mainstays, kind of the basic, and then anyway.
So you branch out a little bit. That's good.
I always like to try new stuff.
Right.
So yeah.
Nice. And then this is another pretty tough question. We have a growing fashion movement in Cedar Rapids and in the corridor.
Okay.
And so one of the questions is, who are you wearing?
Well, I'm wearing an artisan who made this and these that I got for my anniversary one year.
Nice.
And I'm wearing Spellbound perfume. I'm hoping to cast a spell.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Oh, wow. I shouldn't have said that. It's too close to Halloween.
Right. There you go. Awesome. All right. So actually, before we have some real questions coming up here that are going to be a little more challenging. But let's get to know you a little bit. What was it like growing up in your household?
Well, I grew up here, the oldest of 5 kids, with just fantastic parents. I didn't realize it at the time. I thought everybody's house was like that. But we had dinner every night together around a big round table. And my mom was educated as a school teacher, but with 5 kids, ended up staying home with us. But, had us reading all these things, which I thought was terrible as a kid, but then it paid off in school. Mm-hmm. We had 4 living grandparents. My dad was from Keokuk. My mom's parents, he was a Czech from here. In fact, my mom lived above her dad's warehouse.
No way.
About 3 blocks from here, maybe even just 2.
Like in the neighborhood.
9th Avenue in the tracks, and Siemens Bottling Works. Those machines where the cup comes down and then the ice comes down and then the syrup. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're old enough, Steve.
I've seen it on TV.
Maybe in an old movie. I used to go with my grandpa on his rounds as he would fill up the pop and do the change and put more cups in. And so that's where I started in my business career.
Nice.
With Grandpa Zeman, and
Nice.
he'd be down on 16th Avenue speaking Czech to the guys there, and he was somebody who made friends with everybody everywhere he went.
Nice.
So it was a really nice childhood, and
sounds like a close-knit family.
yeah.
Nice. All right, so we're going to jump right into a tough question. And these were all questions that were provided by Facebook questionnaire that I put out.
Okay.
And every mayoral candidate gets the same questions. So what is the role of government in economic development, and what are your views on TIF and other financial incentives for private or publicly traded businesses?
Well, our charter says that this is a major part of the mayor's job, and economic development for the mayor is going to have to be self-starting. It really is. We have inside of the city hall right now a good little department doing economic development, but it's also about cooperating and coordinating with everybody. I mean, there is so much opportunity here for what we can do. I was chair of the chamber and built my own small business. And, I sold Vernon Research Group studies in 28 different states. And I give Jeep tours when people come, not cheap, but Jeep. They're also cheap. I do them for free to show people Cedar Rapids. And I think that government in our form here, the mayor really leads that process. And boy, I'm ready to do it. I served on Priority 1 back when that was the economic development arm of the chamber, and as chair of the chamber, and then on city council as we look to bring people in. I think you start first with businesses that are here, but we're going to need new bases too. And I love what New Boco is doing. I really think we got to grow our own.
Yeah.
We got the brain power here. We got the smarts, and I think we have people that are willing to invest.
Nice.
Now, TIF, we don't have a lot of tools in the tool case for economic development from our legislature. And I chaired the development committee of the council. And what I ask our staff to do, and I think it's really helpful, is create a chart that shows what amount of money did we sort of invest in TIF, and then what is the return on that investment? And you can just see year after year how that's paying off for us. But it's because we have used a very careful program. We don't do the big, years and years of TIF for people. Yep. I think we have a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan.
Yep.
And if you are going to do, I don't know, we may be open to something else if it's out of this world. But
right.
It really helps to stay on that, because then it's equal for everybody.
Controlled, yeah.
So I think there's, would we like to have a few more tools in the tool case? Yes. But when you have TIF, I think we've become experts at using it.
Great. Every single night that we've done this, I've screwed something up, and I did tonight also, because I didn't abbreviate your bio. I didn't say anything about you when I introduced you.
Okay.
But that's an interesting thing. So Monica's, so I just need to get this out of the way here. You founded Vernon Research Group in 1987. You taught entrepreneurship and marketing entrepreneurship at the University of Iowa for quite some years. Served on various boards, including the Jane Boyd and Four Oaks, and spent 8 years on the city council.
Yep.
And you were the backup mayor.
Mayor pro tem, that's right.
So sorry.
Waiting in the wings,
Right.
kind of like the vice president.
Yep. All right. So what are your thoughts on green spaces, and specifically, how do you plan to fund the Greenway plans already in place?
Well, I think green spaces are a huge part of any thriving, successful community. Green Square, the square here in the market at New Bow City Market, but all along our river. And as we look at the flood protection plan, so much of it is green, and it makes sense. Those are areas that will never be able to be built on for homes or businesses or industry, but you can play soccer on them, you can play baseball, you can have I think probably even a skateboard park, some park gazebos and things like that. I've been to places around the country where they built these. In fact, Grand Forks, which is in the north part of North Dakota, is the closest probably to what we have. And I looked at how they were using their green spaces, and it's amazing. I'm a bicyclist, and I'm really excited about a loop, because you have to have a roadway on top of your berms and things to get in there to repair. So that roadway becomes a walkway for citizens and a bicycle way. And I think, the other thing is we're just learning what to do with green spaces. So we can also grow crops. I think of, all the different food that is sort of beautiful as it's growing, but it could be turned into nutrition for people.
That would be amazing.
My daughters love kale. That used to be what we threw away after our meal at Bishop's. It would be under stuff, and it would be like, we now buy kale all the time, and that is a really interesting looking plant. And I think there's so many things we can do with green space.
Great opportunities. That's great. So this is going to jump right into a really controversial topic: traffic cameras. What are your views on them?
Oh, I don't think it's that controversial. To me, you do the crime, you pay the fine. Safety is number one. When you're a city council person, elected official, really anywhere, your number one thing is to keep people safe, is to keep your community safe. There's all kinds of cool things you want to do, but the basic thing is safety. And that S-curve and people running red lights and speeding in our community have caused danger to others. So, we had somebody pinned up on that S-curve at one point. So I think, to me, that was us looking at our resources. And we've been trying so hard to, and the whole time I was in, we held the line on taxation. So what's the best use? And I'd rather have our police officers working on higher level crimes than stopping speeders or people running red lights. So, I've been in favor of them. I'm sorry that, we're the second largest city in Iowa. We know what we need here. I think we need a little more autonomy. And I would be a mayor that would be, politely persistent about that.
Okay. All right. Well, that wasn't controversial enough. We're going to jump into casinos here.
Okay.
So there's a question submitted that's, are you in favor of casinos in Cedar Rapids, or a casino in Cedar Rapids? And if yes, why? Also, which one of the proposed plans do you support?
Okay. Well, I am not a gambler, but I have friends who are. And so when I looked at this topic, I thought, well, okay, City Council doesn't put that on the ballot. The citizens do. So I thought, if the citizens put this on the ballot, A, and B, if it passes, then as a City Council person, I'm accepting, wow, this is something people really want. And it passed by 60-some%, 61, I think. And so that was a clear message to us. And I think about this is a big city. We serve a lot of people. We have people coming in from all kinds of counties all around here. We have a symphony, we have an opera, we have a racetrack out at Hawkeye Downs. A casino makes sense. But here's how I felt about it. If we're going to have a casino, I want it to be locally owned. I don't want those profits going to Las Vegas or somewhere else. I want them to stay right here. And so I wanted it to be locally owned. I wanted it to be designed by an architect or have a design that we can be proud of. This is a wonderful city. And if you want to land your casino here, well, you should make it kind of a nice one, I think, for all of the people here. And then I felt really strongly about it being on what I call the west side downtown, west side of the central business district. And so that's my choice. I like the original plan. I don't think if you go back and read the law from 86, I think, in the 80s, it was passed in the 80s. There's nothing about cannibalization in there. Competition is what makes us great. in this country. Entrepreneurs know that. Every restaurant owner knows that. When you have competition, you make yourself better.
Step up your game.
You make yourself better. And there's nothing that says that this commission, this gaming commission, should be put in place to, I guess, help keep millionaires from having any losses. It's really not designed to protect the casinos. Yeah, give them a chance to get started. But everywhere else in our economy and in our state, we welcome competition. And anyway,
we should do that here.
Well, there's three ways, you make what those people do in business. One, when you make some money, you pay down debt. The next one is you might reinvest in your property. And then the third one is you put it in your pocket. Well, if there's no competition and you've already paid down your bills, you're not going to reinvest. We need them to reinvest in Iowa. And that's exactly what Cedar Rapids is trying to do, is invest. So I go with the big project that's locally owned, a beautiful design right on the river, and supplies the citizens of Cedar Rapids with 2 blocks of flood protection. That's my deal.
All right. You've thought about this a little bit, I can tell. All right. So let's talk about labor force for that casino. This isn't really the casino, but so how can we drive a stronger labor force? We've had several people comment that it's really hard to find labor in this town.
Okay. Well, I feel really strongly, and it's one of the biggest reasons I'm running for mayor, is that I think that this is a really good city, but we have a lot more to do. And part of it is continued growth and development, excitement, things happening. And we know that the people who are coming up and into the labor force now are looking for some quality of life activities. Of course, they need decent housing, and that's something I want to talk about. Of course, they need jobs, and that's what you're talking about. But they also are really looking at what do they do in their off hours. And so I think we've done a pretty good job, but we need to keep going on that to make this a great place for young at heart who want to get out and do things. I also look at our I would like to be involved in lots of collaboration with our school district. And one of the things that I think is so important is having introduction to apprenticeships, introduction to 2-year programming or 1-year programming, things you can go out to Kirkwood and learn how to do, so that the kids know that they have an option other than just 4 years of college, because it's not for everybody. And people can be very, very successful, whether they go to college or not. It's to me, it's how they apply themselves.
Let's use that as a segue into this question. What plans do you have to collaborate with the CR School District to increase student achievement and provide future-ready options for high school graduates?
Well, that's where I would say, when I was growing up, the guys had shop, the women had home ec. Now, I think my husband maybe needed home ec at some point. I probably needed shop. My sister-in-law from Norway, Oslo, Norway, both took both. I think that shop and some of that where you look at what would it be like to be in construction? What would it be like to be in food service? What would it be like to, be a plumber? What would it be like to, there's so many things you can do. Be somebody who doesn't go through and get the full RN, but has a 2-year. So we need to do more with that. And I think there's a lot of kids. The other thing is, we can make it fun. I think a lot of kids just do not realize all the opportunities that are here. And we've just got to sell that more. And I think we got to make it fun.
Yeah.
I know a number of kids that are my daughter's age that decided to come back to Cedar Rapids after the flood because of neighborhoods like Nubo. And they're looking at what's happening in Kingston Village. They're looking at the possibilities in Mound View. They're looking at Ellis and what's been built over there and how great that's going to be. So I think, all those new little houses that are all over, I think that there's a lot of opportunity.
Definitely.
But, after the flood, we started working with the school district, and that really hadn't been done much in the past. And they were going to close schools, and we said, what would it take? And we ended up doing a housing program over there near Harrison, And today, I understand Harrison has more students than they had prior to the flood.
Wow, that's amazing. So another great segue. What work will you do towards creating and sustaining safe and healthy, affordable housing in Cedar Rapids?
Well, I've done a lot already, and so I have a pretty good idea. A long time ago, I worked on the homeless shelter for women and children, but through the council's development committee, which I chaired for the entire time we had it until my term ended, we worked with staff to get our proposals out to the Iowa Finance Authority, and there are probably 15 buildings or more, beautiful masonry buildings that have come up. Some of them are redos of old buildings, some of them are new, and those all came through our committee and are affordable housing. They're housing for workforce. We need more. We need more single-family homes. I think we've been looking at the tiny homes. I'm willing to look at all kinds of, people aren't going to live in necessarily the same old kind of house that maybe when you grew up or I grew up. So we have to be open to all of the different possibilities.
Nice. So with all the housing, it's interesting. One of the biggest complaints that I've heard is streets. So we have a lot of construction on the streets. Specifically, though, there's a question here that our current plan for street repair doesn't address large numbers of smaller residential streets within the next 10 years. This impacts resale values of homes, not to mention issues with transportation. What will you do to create a completely comprehensive streets plan for Cedar Rapids?
So, I understand that our staff has this program and they believe it's based on some pretty good stuff. And I think it probably is. But I think as mayor, you want to come in day one. And this is the thing that I hear the most about. And just do an analysis. It's always good to, maybe we've been in this thing 3 or 4 years, whatever it is now, and look at where are we? Because I think we need to relook at our priorities for getting things reconfigured. I think we need to look at timelines because many projects seem to drag on and on and on. And some of them are just, doing the ADA curb cuts. And I know as I was door knocking and traveling all over this summer, I really noticed a lot of these places. I think we've got to really not throw anything out. We have to look at how do we build streets here in the upper Midwest. And I think we have to, be very, very cognizant of who uses our streets. We have 1,000 semis coming in here with grain every single day. We grow by 50 to 100,000 every single day with people that come into Cedar Rapids from the outside to work, to shop, to go to the hospitals, to whatever. And we love that. We love them. They're our workforce. But we don't have a good way always to tax them. And that's why the penny has been helpful. So, here's what I know about our people here is they'll trust us for a while. But I think, I don't like to be, I'm not a kind of person that says, hey, Steve, trust me. Right. I want to give you the facts. I'm out of market research. I want to say, look, we passed this 1 cent for 10 years. Here are the needs we have, people. And I would take this all around town. I think we haven't gone out to the people enough. So I think that once we have an analysis done and we make it fun to look at on the PowerPoint, and most people drive or get around town, so they've experienced the potholes. Have them come in, go to them, and give them the straight story. Let them know here's what we think it's going to take.
Yeah, nice. All right, so we have 2 more questions here. One is, walk us through your first 100 days in office if you're elected.
Okay. Well, in this form of government, the mayor and the council are the leaders. They're not the managers. So it's not a management thing. I have management experience. I ran a small company. I've certainly managed in a number of situations, but this is about leadership. And your purview as mayor is really your council. I mean, it's a large council. There's 9, 8 council members and a mayor. So you really need to know them. And because you're in charge of the vision, the future, the direction of the city, where are we going to spend our time? Where are we going to spend the precious people's money? What are we going to do? And what are our priorities? As a mayor, you really need to work with your council, and you want to encourage them to work with citizen groups and citizens, and your commissions. I think we need to really pay attention to all the neighborhoods, to all the different groups out there. I just don't want to leave any corner of any neighborhood behind. And I think that that's how so I think there's a big effort to go back out into the neighborhoods. I'd like to do 2 neighborhood meetings a month, kind of a state of the city. And whoever's district that is goes with the mayor, and we listen and we give some answers instead of the "we'll get back to you" thing all the time. I think people deserve that. For many years after the flood, we had to just, keep our nose to the grindstone and make decisions to bring things back. But I think this is a new day. And I think it's about, this isn't my city or your city. We both are big cheerleaders. I know for it. It's the people's city. And I think that, getting young and old, and we're going to do something for the disability community coming up here, for our people who have been here a year, people who have been here for their entire lives. I think we need to make sure that we're including people, that we have a way to get out to them, not expecting everyone to come downtown to City Hall. Even though that is, I believe, the people's hall, right? It's not the city manager's place or the mayor's. It really belongs to the people. And I think we have to have that feeling. So the first 100 days is a lot about making sure that council has a strategic plan. What are we doing? Otherwise, staff doesn't know what the direction is. And then, of course, you're working very closely with Pomerantz, our city manager, who I was the recruitment person for, and I believe in him. But I also know that you need checks and balances. You need a mayor that's not afraid to say to the city manager, "Wait a second here." But you also have to be open when he says, "Look, you guys have all these visions. You're going to have to narrow it down a little bit because we don't have the funds to do it." So it's a back and forth kind of thing. It's not day-to-day management. It's really studying the city, being out in the city. So I'd go out, but the first thing would be with the council. Then I'd work with council, not just the mayor on their own. This isn't a strong mayor form of government. This is a council manager form. So how can I, as mayor, lift up all the council members so that your district rep has a big voice too? So that every corner of the community, is chatting with us.
Nice. All right, last question. We have about 2 minutes. We're trying to keep this under a half hour here. So I know you've got a lot of good things to say. So why are you more qualified than the other candidates?
Well, I served 8 years on council and 6 as mayor pro tem. And before that, I served 10 years on planning commission and planning and zoning, which is what a lot of the city is based on, is just land use. How do you use what's okay and how do you use it? In my time on council, I drove things to happen. I wasn't just sitting there. So, for example, there's an ordinance today called Safe CR, and it's the idea that everyone under Iowa law deserves quiet enjoyment of their property. And this was the first ordinance after the change of government where all these different departments work together to make it a safer city. And it protects tenants, but also those who own a individual home, commercial properties, industrial. So it took us a long time to get that through, but I'll make things happen. And, when the ballpark had a problem, there wasn't anybody who knew anybody on the veterans and the city and the ball club. And I put them together and got them to a table and kind of got them going. And come on, we can't walk away from each other. We needed a new ballpark. And then when we had one, there was a dispute about rent. And we got to the table again. And, it's about, my strength is knowing a lot of people in the community, valuing everybody, being open, and solving problems not by me having the biggest gavel on earth, but by maybe me having the biggest Rolodex, that I'm going to look at how can we get, if there's a problem down here, I know there's a group that works on things. So you get everybody to the table that you can. And, I think we need to do more of that. I'd love to do a mayor's roundtable where we kind of bring in different groups, but it wouldn't be just for the mayor. You got to bring along your council. You got to have your key staff there. So a lot of consensus building. I can make a decision, but you don't lead by just making decisions.
Right.
You don't lead by being a dictator, and I'm not suggesting anybody is, but I think you lead by bringing people along, by building that next generation and that next generation, and that's what I like to do.
Nice. Well said. All right, so this concludes today's episode. Monica, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you taking the time. What's really funny about this is that my wife, Andrea, is in the back, and she's probably like the most well-lit person in this video. So I don't even think you knew it, but anyway, all right. She's back there. So closing words here. Let me find that page. So October 12th is the candidate forum at the Cedar Rapids Library, but also keep an eye out for other forums. There's a lot of them. Yep. And they seem to be growing by the day. This is all about being educated and getting out to vote. So on November 7th is the election day. Please share this video, share your comments, share your concerns, and promote your values, and let's make this city a better place. Thanks again for tuning in, and keep an eye out for the next one. Thanks.